Great to see you. Good to be out here. And I know it's overcast, but I tried taking the hat off and it's really bright out here. It is midsummer after all. And I'm going to see if I can show you the back garden. The reception isn't brilliant out here, but let me turn the camera around because there's a lot to see. Let me start with this. Fabulous, really. Purple iris. It does actually have a proper name, this. I know its name. This is Summer Storm. It is a Japanese iris. Oh look, we've got a bumblebee here. Let me show you the bumblebee doing its job. So, fabulous, and it's totally the best for me to show you. Yeah, they're going to be pretty crappy, but anyway. Yeah, see, it keeps dropping off. So I won't go any further from the house, but I will show you this because it's pretty fabulous. The Veilchenblau climbing rose is in full flight. It's amazing. It's looking really good. So just enjoying that. And look, the hydrangeas are coming out. And everything's grown up the back. And the lawn is very long. It hasn't had much opportunity to be mowed. That was a small magnolia and it's getting bigger. And this magnolia is getting bigger too. So it's all happening up here. And it's nice to let the wildflowers actually grow. And then this is the piece that I really need to fix. There just hasn't been time for me to do the gardening. You can see over there the cassia. Let me try and show you the cassia a little bit closer. I'll just go slowly and see how far I can go. So it's getting covered in its bright yellow flowers, which are lovely. And of course the bumblebees love them. And there's a Campanula Elizabeth up the back there, which is glorious. But this one is doing so well. It's fabulous. I haven't seen it flower like this for ages. Maybe I should neglect it more often. It's doing wonderfully, so I'm really enjoying that. But you can see it really is jungly, and I'm looking forward. I'm on holiday now. I'm going to be doing a lot of writing, so I'm expecting to go live more often because I have a holiday and I'm going to make some stuff happen. So look, here's the gooseberry bush. If you look close, you will see there are really wicked thorns on this beast. And only a few gooseberries because it's recovering from something of an illness. Look at these are walking onions. Get these weird, see that's a sort of a flat, but they make little babies. And then these stems bend and fall over, and so the little babies end up walking. Of course I don't let that happen, and I mean you can eat the little babies. See there's these teeny tiny bulbs here. They're what will fall on the ground, and that's why they're called walking onions. You can actually eat them. Pretty tasty. But yes, it's all jungly, and this is the lemon bush, lemon tree, which I had to really cut back. And you can see this in here, this is varicosis. And I actually need to cut this bit out of it because it's not healthy. But by and large, if I keep it well fed and look after it, it can fight the disease off. I'll never get rid of it. But it's looking really good this year. And we have the red currant, which is obviously red curranting. And I really need to cover it with something to stop the birds from eating the fruit. But I haven't had time. I really haven't had time. It's been pretty crazy. So, yeah, this is the garden. Just to show you this rose again before I go inside because it's fabulous. I'm loving it, and I'm loving being able to put it on the camera for you and see the Japanese iris. The pink one is just going great guns, and we'll take another look at this purple one before I stop and go inside and talk about what I've been doing today. So there we go. That's the garden. It's just too beautiful not to show you the back garden, even though the reception is a bit dodgy. Wanted you to see. So go inside, shut the pet door. It's quieter in here, and you see my scruffy laundry, which I'm still very grateful to have because, you know, life without a laundry has difficulties. And here we are in the lounge. So I forgot to shut the door. There's 2 doors into the lounge, which is not a bad thing. So here I am, settling down here to tell you what I've been doing all day. Well, all this morning. So I started, and you might think, well, why am I 2 days late? Because I am 2 days late. Normally I go live in New Zealand, it's Wednesday. And for a lot of the rest of the world, it's Tuesday. Hi, Christy. Lovely to see you. And so I'm 2 days late. And there's a bit of a story about why I'm 2 days late. I'm 2 days late because a friend of mine that I haven't seen for a long time, actually, you know, we've kept in touch online, but I haven't seen her in the flesh for a while, was going to come down to Wellington to visit because she had an appointment to keep. And I was like, oh, cool. And I actually, because Tuesday your time, Wednesday my time, Wednesday morning my time is my time to write, I thought, oh, can I do this? And I actually shuffled my day. So I thought, oh, work will be finished on Thursday. I can do my Wednesday morning on Friday morning, which is what I've just done. So I organised that, and then because I'd agreed with her that I was going to let her know closer to the time, and so I messaged her back and said, oh yeah, it's all cool, you know. And she said, oh, I got COVID, I'm pretty weak, I'm not coming down, you know, she'll be doing her appointment online. Hi Lisa, lovely to see you, sweetie. So I ended up being able to work on Wednesday morning, which was actually a blessing because there were a number of things that just needed doing. So I had a really busy Wednesday. I started a little bit late because I had my client that I see once a month, and that's just how it works. But so that's why I'm going live today instead of last week, instead of 2 days ago. But also, I am giving you a heads up. I know I've already said it once, but I'll say it again. I'm intending to go live a little more often over the next 2 weeks because for the first time in my life, I've got to the holiday break and I'm not stressed out. I don't need to collapse in a limp heap. I'm kind of rearing and ready to go. And it's like, I want to do lots of writing. So I'm still going to get up at my normal sort of 5:30 time. It was a bit late this morning, but that's because I stayed up last night doing something for my patrons on Patreon, which is not quite finished, but I'll publish it today. I stayed up, and so I'm a little bit late, but I did my meditation. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my meditation. I'm going to go for a walk to the top of the hill and take a little video, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to write. And I might not write 5 days. It might be 3. I think, I don't know. I mean, it's my holiday. I can do what I want because I might do some work as well. But I'm going to I've decided that I'm going to, if I spend a morning writing, I'm going to do a live afterwards. So watch out. That's all I can say. I don't quite know how it's going to work out, but I guess if I'm settling down to write, I'll put a post up to say that I'm settling down to write, so you'll know that I'll be going live. So I will do my best to do a heads up. I'm going to be going live at 3:30 Eastern or whatever time it is where you are, if it's going to happen. So that's how it's going to be for the next couple of weeks. Instead of being less of me going away, it's more because I'm here and I can. Irina, lovely to see you. So it's great to have you here. So here's my little notepad. This notepad, by the way, I got to show you. This notepad has had a life. That's its back, that's its front. You know how old this is? I don't know. It's old enough that the dimensions on the front say 3 inches by 5 inches. That's how old it is. Probably dates back to when I was a teenager. And that's a while. So I went, so that's the history about today and also what's coming up. It was funny because I kind of had to put my head back on because it's been a busy week. And Katharina, lovely to see you, sweetie. So I did what I always did. I went back to where I left off last week and I reviewed and I thought, oh yes, I was writing about why bad feelings are so easy to feel. And it's because they help us survive. Short version, survival is important. And if you are feeling so good that the predator is eating you while you're hugging it, that's not a good way to survive. So that is why our good feelings are lovely, but they tend to evaporate because we've got to get back to the business of surviving. But, you know, and survival feelings can just hang around. Because if you think about it in terms of, you know, because our brain and our body has evolved over millions of years, and the present version of Homo sapiens that we are, sort of 250,000 to 300,000, I think that's right, God, is the most recent sort of evolutionary, is where it's not stopped, but, you know, is where we got the brain and the body that we have now, more or less. And back then,
people lived in small families or tribes. Hi, Robin. And there were no cities, there was no technology, there was no electricity, there was just the seasons. There were things, I mean, you knew where you lived, you knew what the hazards were where you lived, you knew how to find water, you knew how to find food, you knew who was your friend and who was your enemy, you knew where safety was and where was not safe, and that was it. And that was life. And if there was an occasional unknown threat that came into your experience, that was something that you would need necessarily. If there's an emergency, you want to survive. So you have an emergency system that mobilizes all of the body's resources internally to get you out of that problem. And our survival response, by the way, it's really amazing what it does. Because if you need to run away from a saber-toothed tiger or a Tyrannosaurus Rex, although humans were never around when there were dinosaurs, if you need that much energy, your body is not going to spend any energy at all healing an injury or fighting off an infection. It's also not going to expend any energy being kind to somebody or trusting somebody. It's not a time to trust anything or anyone if you're being chased by a tiger. So the body is going to mobilize absolutely every little bit of energy that it has available to get you out of danger. And when you're out of danger, then it will go back to digesting your food, which doesn't happen when you're in emergency mode. It will go back to having an immune response. It will go back to relating to people and having relationships. It'll go back to you having a brain. Because when you're running from a tiger, all of the blood gets taken out of the part of the brain that does thinking and creating and working stuff out and solving problems. All you've got left is the part of the brain that's instinctual, the bit at the back. Great part of the brain. It means we don't have to learn how to do everything all the time, every day. Imagine having to learn how to walk and talk and all the things that we just memorize and know how to do, stored in here, and in here too, temporal lobes. But you don't need that when you're running from a tiger. So it's a very adaptive response, right? To have this thing that will save your life. And then when the threat is over, then all the energy goes back to resting and digesting and repairing and creating and fixing stuff up and having relationships and enjoying life and all of that. And so we're either in survival or we're in creation. We're either in rest and digest and growth and repair, or we're in fight, flee, or hide. That's it. Those are the choices, and it's physically impossible to be both at the same time. You can't. It's like what the cell is doing in your body is two different things depending on if you're running from a tiger or you're happy with your family or whatever it is that you're doing. So that's the situation that we have, and that's what evolved, and it's really, really useful. So, and remember that the context of all of this is that I'm trying to explain how it is that we get addicted to our negative emotions. How does that work? Because we do. So what the hell is that? And the first thing that happens is that we have this really adaptive survival response, which gives us bad feelings, right? The bad feelings, everything from depression to misery to loneliness to anger to resentment to, all of those things come because of the chemicals of stress. The stress response happens, you get stress chemicals, hormones, neurotransmitters, everything's a whole range of things, stress chemicals, stress response, give you bad feelings. And you need those if you're going to survive a tiger or an attack from, a neighbouring tribe that wants your cave. That's what they're for. It's awesome that you're repairing, Lisa. I'm delighted. I really am. So how did we get from having this really adaptive response to being in this situation where now, and this is an old research statistic that I know is true, that researchers found years and years and years ago now, that most people spend 70% of their day in survival mode. In other words, chemically and neurologically, their body is having the same experience as if they are running from a tiger. What? 70% of the day. And I thought about that. What is 70% of the day? Well, a day is 24 hours. If you're lucky enough to sleep for 8 hours, that's 1/3 of your day, like 33%. So The other 67%, that's, round that up to 70, that's your entire waking day. That some people are just in stress. And the thing is, and I include myself in this because I remember when I started to realise, and it was only when I was getting out of being in stress all the time that I realised I was in stress all the time. We don't realise that we're just sort of at this low level or even moderate level of, I'm amped, I'm vigilant, I'm looking out for stuff, or whatever, all the time. We don't know it because it's become normal to us. So the first thing to realise is how do we get there? Because we didn't start off there. Our bodies didn't evolve for us to be in stress all the time. And clearly that's not a good idea if your digestion's not going to work and your immune system is shut off and you can't relate and you certainly can't think and you can't solve problems. You don't want to be like that 70% of the time, and yet a lot of people are like that 70% of the time. And they don't know it because they just think it's normal, because I sure did. So how do we get there? And how we get there is that the world in which this survival mechanism evolved was very different to the world we're in now. Obviously, right? 250,000 years ago, I wouldn't be talking to you on this phone, and think of all the infrastructure that has to be present for me to speak to you on this phone. There has to be electricity, there has to be a Wi-Fi network, there have to be satellites. Think of everything that contributes to all of that being there. Think of the time pressure. Everybody is running on the clock. Think of employers and bosses and families and complicated families and gender issues and politics. And, our world is really, really different. And it's there all the time. It's like it's fast and the stimuli are just constant. And then you think about 250,000 years ago that prehistoric humans were just walking around the wild. Nature, predator, food, water, shelter, friend, foe, whatever. Life was really simple. There were only a few things that they had to deal with, and this survival response that we have evolved in that situation. It didn't evolve in this situation. And so if we don't understand that the 70% is because our brain is still doing what it did, but we're recognizing many, many, many different things that our brain is thinking as a threat, and I've yet to unpack how that works. But our brain is just recognizing, there's a threat. Or there's a thing that might be a threat. That looks a bit like a threat that I experienced 2 years ago. And I have to be ready for all of these things because I say, So this is how we end up stressed 70% of the time. And I don't mean, for some people that really is, oh my God, I am scared, I'm stressed, I have an anxiety disorder, I'm depressed, by the way. It's the same anxiety, depression, same situation in the brain, just it's different, but it's a survival response. We're reacting, we are responding to something that we have recognized in our environment as a threat, as identified by us or by our brain. Very often it's our brain that identifies a threat, and we don't even know that our brain has said, that looks like this, that was bad, therefore this might be bad, I got to be on watch in case it is bad. That happens a lot, and I have watched my brain do this. It's amazing. And you just think, hang on a minute, I'm just minding my business, and suddenly there's a kind of a zing inside me. And I think, what? Where did that come from? And my brain has just, whatever, done its job. It's running the same programs from millions of years ago, but the world is different. And so there's an awful lot more for it to react to. And so that really is, I know this is what goes on inside our bodies and our brains. And we just think, oh my God, I'm stressed and I can't do anything about it. Well, you can, but it helps if you understand that, because then you think, okay, well, if my brain is behaving like this because that's a program, but now there's so much more stimulus, how do I get to manage my response to all of those stimuli differently? And that is a really good question to ask. It's not one that I've started answering yet, not really. I'm just still unpacking the mechanism. Because if you don't understand what you're dealing with, you can't actually deal with it. But I do find this fascinating. And so so that's a piece of the writing that I did, was just to say, this is the mechanism. It shuts everything off, and oh my God, imagine, really, 70% of the day your digestion is not working, your immune system is compromised, and you can't think. Really, you got no brain because you're just operating instinctually. And by the way, if there's people in your life who are always reactive and they're always going off about things, and you think, why are you going off about that? Or, oh my God, that was a small thing and a huge blow up. They're not thinking. Their thinking brain is not there. They have no capacity to restrain their behaviour because the behaviour restraining pit is in here, and there's no blood flow there because they're in survival, and they've only got blood flow going to the survival part of the brain, which only knows how to fight, to run, or to hide. Those are the choices. And so you can look at the people around you and think, oh my God, if that really is that person that I know that they like to be this certain way and they're behaving like that monster, they're not there. They're just running and they're in survival. They're just, it's really, you're just like an animal, because that's the animal brain. It's instinctual. There's nothing else there at that time. So this is what's going on. And so how do we get stuck there? And I was thinking, well, how do I explain this? And there's two parts to it. The first thing is I retell, but with a little bit more understanding now, the story of our cave lady, Ama. We talked about Papo, her father, who survived the big attack from the big cat, and how that helped her survive. But she survived the attack, and basically she got PTSD because she got stuck in a loop. But I'm explaining this problem now in the context of her having that experience, and because the experience was so powerful and her brain manufactured an enormous amount of chemistry, because that chemistry had to go to her body to give it the power and the strength to run away from that animal and survive, that chemistry also made her brain form an enormous number of memories. All of the information, everything, every little rustle, every little sound, the quality of the light, things she saw on the ground, exactly everything about that situation, she would have remembered until the day she passed out of her body, because it was so powerful, it was so emotional, there was so much chemistry that she would remember it. It changed her in that moment. And so then, after she tried to go back to her normal life, every time she walked through the bush and there was a little rustle, and her brain said, that sounded like the rustle the cat made when it dashed out of the bush at me. It's probably not a cat, but I don't know, so I have to be ready. I better send a burst of stress hormones, stress chemicals to the body. Oh, that's a weird smell. Is that a local herd of cattle, or is that another cat? I don't know, but I better make sure that we're ready to run. So it sends another load of chemicals. And she was recognizing all of these stimuli, which before that experience were just normal, ordinary things in her environment that she understood and recognized as being safe. But now, because of her experience, her brain said, I don't know if this is safe. I've got to be ready to run. Over and over and over and over and over again. And so the stress hormones, the stress chemistry keeps on pouring into the body. And so you're amped up in whatever way that happens to be for you, and you can't seem to stop, and you can't get down, and you turn into someone you don't like because your brain's not working. And if you stay there for long enough, your body will get sick because your immune system's compromised and you're not absorbing nutrition, because none of that's important if you're running from a tiger. But you can see how it happens. So I've told that story about Ama, and the next thing that I will do the next time I write, I don't need to say next week, yay! The next time I write, I'm going to start writing the story of what that might look like for you or me. Because, okay, so that's fine, that's the story I understand in that context, but how does that look in my life now? How might it look in my life now? Because I've always got to make these things relatable. Okay, here's a concept, but what does this mean to me? So that's what I've written today. I'm actually feeling really chuffed. I feel like I just bulleted ideas out and wrote a few lines and then filled in the gaps and linked things up. It's like, oh, I got these 2 concepts written out today. So I'm looking forward to telling the other story, to frame it in the modern context. And then I'll be another step closer to my version of explaining emotional addiction. Because that's really, we all get stuck, you know, because when you get stuck in this constant responding, the constant chemistry changes your cells. And we've talked about that. The brain of the cell, which is its membrane, gets altered. And then the cells are thinking differently. And since we're all made up of cells, you can work the rest out. We change. So there you go. That's what I've done. Thank you for sharing this with me on Facebook. I just love it. I love to see your comments. I appreciate every single one. And if you're on YouTube, thank you for watching. I invite you to like this video, to share it, and to subscribe if you'd like to see more, because there will be more than usual in the next little while. And this is a project. I am writing the words for a website that's going to be called God of Me. And it's about being God of Me and making it possible for other people to learn how to be God of Me. And there are lots of people all sharing their ways of how to be your own boss, how to change your own life. And so this is me responding to the vision that I have to do that in my particular way. So thank you for sharing the journey. If you'd like to check out what I'm doing on Patreon, the link is down there in the description. And I look forward to the next time I get to join up with you here on Facebook and on YouTube. Until then, big love. Bye-bye.